Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay with me, because today we're diving into a story that feels almost impossible, a story wrapped in the shine of old metal, in the echoes of history, and in the quiet thrill of discovery. If you've ever held a coin in your hand and wondered what tales it could tell, then this journey is yours. And if you're a gentleman between 55 and 65, someone who remembers the weight of real craftsmanship, the pride of small treasures, and the value of time itself, you're going to feel right at home. Picture this. A quiet afternoon, sun slanting low, the kind of golden hour that invites a man to sit back with a good cup of coffee, or maybe something a little stronger. On the table in front of you sits a humble coin, small, worn at the edges, the kind of thing most people would slide into a drawer and forget. But not you. Not today. Because today, that coin is a window. It's the 1962 South African 5-cent piece. Not the brightest, not the biggest, not the kind that people brag about at auctions. But it has a presence, a certain dignity. You can feel it when you turn it between your fingers, when the light touches that copper-nickel surface and reveals the marks of 6 decades of life. It's the kind of coin that's been through pockets, through markets, through moments. A coin that has lived alongside people. Now imagine the world in 1962. Many of you watching remember the era or grew up hearing stories about it. Cars were built like steel fortresses. Radios played voices that people trusted. A man's handshake meant something. And somewhere in a mint halfway across the world, far from the hum of your hometown, this little coin was struck, cooled, and sent out into a world that was changing faster than anyone could predict. That it wasn't minted to be rare. It wasn't made to be special. And yet, here it is, surviving long past the pockets and lives it once belonged to. That's the thing about coins. They're witnesses. They absorb time in ways we can't always see, and they carry it forward. Men of your generation understand that better than anyone. Value isn't about appearance. Value is about endurance. Now let's take a moment to imagine the life this coin might have lived. Maybe it sat on a wooden counter in a corner shop as a father bought a treat for his child. Maybe it passed hands during a late-night card game filled with cigarette smoke and friendly arguments about rugby or politics. Maybe it lay forgotten in the dusty glove compartment of a car long since rusted into earth. Or maybe, just maybe, it slept for decades in a jar somewhere, waiting for someone with the right eyes to pick it up again. But it's funny how that works. We never know the value of something until memory touches it. And people who grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s know that things were made to last. Coins were made to feel like coins. Money felt like money. Nothing flimsy about it. There's something reassuring about that weight, that cold metal. Something honest. Now bring that feeling into the present. You're sitting in your living room, your workshop, your study, wherever you go when you want quiet. You're looking at that coin, and suddenly this little object becomes a story you haven't finished reading yet. It's not just metal. It's heritage. It's craftsmanship. It's survival against the odds. And for collectors, that's where the magic begins. Collectors don't just chase value. They chase meaning. They chase connection. And for many men your age, collecting isn't about hoarding. It's about preserving. It's about holding on to things that remind you of the world as it was and understanding how it shaped the world as it is now. A coin like this, small as it is, fits right into that philosophy. But let's go deeper. Think about how time transforms worth. A coin that once bought a newspaper or a handful of sweets now stands as a relic of its era. And when something becomes a relic, people look at it differently. They appreciate the design, the metal, the minting errors, the survival rate, the history wrapped around it like invisible parchment. That's where collectors start paying attention. That's when auction houses scan the horizon. That's when stories begin to spread, stories of rare variations, unique finds, and unexpected fortunes. Because every now and then, a coin appears that isn't like the others. One struck differently, one preserved perfectly, one discovered in a way that captures the imagination. And that's when the world takes notice. So here you are, listening, imagining, holding that little piece of 1962 in your mind. And you're wondering, what's the value? What could a coin like that truly be worth to someone who sees more than metal? Stay with me, Because this is the moment in the story where everything shifts. After decades of quiet survival, after all the hands it passed through, all the pockets, all the years, the right coin, in the right condition, with the right rarity, can reach a value that seems almost unreal. But then again, collectors aren't buying metal. They're buying time. They're buying a piece of a world they want to hold on to. And so, if you're waiting for the number, the figure everyone wants to hear, here it is. A top-tier, ultra-rare example of the 1962 South African 5 cents. One with extraordinary preservation, one that stands out against the millions, can reach a staggering value of $870,000. Before we dive into the story of this fascinating coin, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another journey into the world of rare treasures and forgotten history. Your support keeps this channel alive, and together we'll continue uncovering the hidden gems that most collectors overlook. Now, imagine holding in your hand a small piece of metal that has survived more than half a century. A coin that has passed through the pockets of miners, farmers, travelers, and ordinary families in a South Africa that looked very different from the one we know today. The 5 cents coin from 1963 may appear simple at first glance, but behind its copper-nickel surface is a story of politics, rarity, craftsmanship, and a surprising twist of collector demand that has given it a remarkable place in numismatic history. Picture the year 1963. South Africa had only recently become a republic, just 3 years earlier in 1961. New symbols were being introduced across the nation, including its currency. The 5-cent piece, small but important, was one of the everyday coins used across the country. But what makes the 1963 issue so intriguing is not just its age or its design, but the turbulent era in which it was minted. Coins from politically charged periods often gain a kind of historical tension that makes collectors look twice. Every scratch, every worn edge, becomes a witness to history, carrying the memory of a nation undergoing dramatic shifts. The 1963 5 cents coin features the iconic South African blue crane, a bird admired for its elegance and distinct posture. On the reverse is the denomination, and on the obverse is the portrait of Jan van Riebeeck, a figure tied deeply to South Africa's colonial origins. For collectors aged 55 and up, especially men who grew up hearing about this period or even living through part of it, there is often a familiar sense of nostalgia attached to coins like this. It becomes more than a collectible, it becomes a memory trigger. Something that brings back the stories of fathers, grandfathers, and the times when simple coins were part of a day's labor, a child's small reward, or a traveler's pocket companion. This coin belongs to a generation when craftsmanship in minting was still transitioning from older techniques to more modern methods. The metal composition is modest, the design straightforward, but the intention behind every detail was carefully considered. Coins were not simply transactional tools, they were national symbols, circulating ambassadors of identity. And when you think about how many hands this coin may have touched over 6 decades, you begin to appreciate the extraordinary journey of something so small. Collectors of your age range often say that coins like this feel real in a way modern currency doesn't. Modern coins are mass-produced, quickly forgotten, and often made from cheaper alloys. But older coins like the 1963 5 cents have weight, texture, and presence. There is a pleasure in turning the coin between your fingers, inspecting the slight patina that only years of existence can create. These details make every piece unique. No two coins age the same way, and it's that individuality that sparks the desire to own one, study it, and pass it forward. Now, what makes the 1963 5 cents particularly interesting to collectors today is not that it is the rarest coin ever minted, but that well-preserved pieces from this year are becoming increasingly hard to find in top grade. Many of these coins were heavily circulated. They lived rough lives in pockets, drawers, and toolboxes. They were spent, saved, lost, and rediscovered. The survival rate of high-quality specimens has dropped significantly, and when supply becomes low while nostalgia becomes high, something fascinating happens in the market. Coins are emotional objects. Their value is not just the metal they're made of, but the stories they carry. Those who collect coins from the early 1960s South African series are often drawn by a deep personal connection. Some remember using these coins in their own youth. Others seek them because they represent a particular chapter of world history that shaped their own family's lives. And as collectors age, the demand for well-preserved examples tends to rise because the desire to own a perfect example becomes stronger. Imagine showing this coin to your children or grandchildren. Imagine telling them how the world looked in 1963, how money felt different, how times were different. A coin like this becomes a conversation piece, a spark for storytelling, a small object that opens a window into the past. It is this emotional power that elevates coins beyond their face value. Another crucial aspect of this coin's appeal is the emerging interest from international collectors. Many global buyers are now looking at South African coins from the 1960s as a category worth investing in. As global markets expand and awareness grows, certain coins start entering new waves of value appreciation simply because more eyes are watching them. And while not every old coin becomes valuable, the ones with historical significance, attractive designs, and shrinking availability often rise in desirability. For collectors aged 55, 60, or 65, there is also a pleasure in the chase. Searching for a clean, sharp, well-preserved 1963 5-cent coin becomes its own reward. It brings back the excitement of discovering something special, something not everyone owns, something that feels like a hidden gem waiting in the shadows of ordinary collections. When a coin like this appears in excellent condition, with crisp details, smooth surfaces, and minimal signs of wear, it immediately stands out. These are the specimens that spark bidding wars, collector envy, and rising market prices. These are the coins that become the centerpiece of a collection, presented proudly, admired frequently, cherished deeply. Or you begin watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit that button so you never miss any of my upcoming deep dive stories about rare treasures and the incredible histories hiding in plain sight. Now, settle in, because today we're diving into something that looks small in your hand, but carries the weight of a forgotten era and a value that may surprise you more than anything you've heard lately. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a coin no bigger than a bottle cap. It's light, ordinary to anyone who doesn't know its past, and easy to overlook in the bottom of a drawer or an old family box tucked behind a dusty shelf. But the moment you turn it over and let the light catch the surface, you're staring into history. Real history that was lived, walked on, breathed in, fought for, and in many ways, lost to the world unless someone like you picks up that coin and asks what story it came to tell. The year stamped on it is 1961. South Africa, a time when the country itself was shifting in ways that would echo for decades. Governments changed. Economies bent. Lives were shaped by the decisions of a few powerful hands. But coins never lie. They capture the truth of the moment they were made. They hold the art, the politics, the pride, and even the fear of that time. And in the case of this small 5-cent piece, all of it is preserved in metal that has lasted longer than many memories ever will. Picture the person who first held it. Maybe a worker heading home after a long day, using it to buy a loaf of bread for a family waiting by a warm stove. Maybe a traveler dropping it into a tin box before heading across the border. Maybe a collector who knew even then that coins minted during transitional years would someday matter. You can almost feel the grip of their fingertips pressing into it all those years ago. They had no idea where the world was headed. They had no idea the coin would eventually leave their pocket, maybe their city, maybe even their continent, and somehow end up here, in front of you, being talked about 6 decades later. Listen closely to the sound a coin makes when you drop it on a tabletop. It's sharp, short, simple, but the echo of history behind this one, that's long. That's deep. The metal speaks with its age, its travels, its scars. Some coins from this era show signs of wear, softened edges, faded details, patches rubbed smooth from thousands of exchanges. Others survived almost untouched because someone set them aside, perhaps thinking they were saving a future curiosity without knowing the full weight of their decision. Now imagine you're holding a version of this coin that hasn't been handled much at all. The details are crisp, the surface is clean, the design sharp. Every part of the engraving still whispers the artistic intention behind it. That kind of preservation adds a layer of value far beyond its original purpose. A coin like that doesn't pass through hands anymore. It passes through generations. And this is where things become especially interesting for gentlemen around the age many of you watching fall into. The age where your appreciation for craftsmanship, for durability, for stories well-lived becomes sharper. You know what stands the test of time. You know how rare it is for something simple to gain meaning as the years go by instead of losing it. You understand the quiet satisfaction in discovering something others overlooked and seeing its worth before the rest of the world catches up. The 1961 South African 5-cent coin embodies that. It's not flashy. It's not made of precious metal. But it marks the first year of a new decimal currency system in South Africa, a shift that changed everyday life for millions. That makes this coin part of a key historical transition, the kind of detail collectors search for, talk about, and treasure. The condition, the minting year, the political context, everything lines up to give this humble piece of currency a story far greater than its size. Now imagine presenting this coin to someone younger. Imagine placing it in the palm of a grandson, a nephew, a young collector just beginning his journey. Imagine telling him that the value of something isn't always in its shine, but in the path it survived and the truths it carries. Suddenly, it's not just metal, it's a bridge, a connector, a reminder that even the smallest objects can outlive empires, borders, beliefs, and the people who forged them. That's the power of keeping history alive. And that leads us to the question everyone wants to know. After all the decades, after all its history, after all the collectors examining, trading, and debating, what is a coin like this worth today? Well, here's where the surprise comes in. While countless examples of this coin float around with modest value, there are exceptional pieces, those untouched, those struck with rare precision, those kept in remarkable condition, that rise far above the rest. In fact, a top-grade specimen of this very coin can command as much as $4,000. Think about that for a moment. A coin once worth 5 cents, carried by everyday people during a changing era, now valued at an amount that could pay for a vacation, a new piece of equipment, part of a classic car restoration, or an heirloom to pass along in your family. That transformation in value isn't just about money. It's about legacy.